What up, dude? Got 20, second one in a row, you really work out. I played basketball yesterday. I did a workout with a shin. One on me, one go. So I just saw a spring today. I'm going to try and do one tomorrow too. See if I can continue to take shots. Yeah, we did.
If you hear this and you're outside downstairs, come on in. Good morning, y'all. What's happening? Happy Mardi Gras. Almost. Uh-oh. Anybody ever been down in New Orleans for Mardi Gras? At least one. One person. Not yet. One more week. But I just went to the store and got 3 tea cakes last night before. Hang on. Alright, we're back. So, Pete, you want to read this?
Continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. Mark Twain / Samuel Clemens.
Last time I did a Mark Twain quote, it might have been David Payne who told me that that's not his real name. Somebody, maybe it wasn't me.
No, I will correct you.
You will correct me. I was corrected by somebody, but that was not his actual name. But anyway, continuous improvement is better than delayed perfection. I thought that was kind of cool. We talk about this a lot, right? Just little steps, day by day, week by week, month by month, will ultimately get you a better result. That's what the 40X program is about. A lot of you all are doing those groups. I'm so proud of everybody doing that. It's awesome. I know there's going to be a few bumps in the beginning, but it's a really good thing. And we'll talk about an update on that in the meeting. But this just reminded me of that. So anyway, what are you all grateful for today?
I have one. My brand new AirPod jumped out of my ear and went right into a full cup of coffee, and I reached in and fished it out, and it still works.
It still works. Nice. Is it the kind that formed your ear?
Yeah, and then it's completely noise canceling and everything. They actually come with 3 different little sizes of things. I just haven't changed that out. I'm going to now because I need a smaller one.
You need a smaller one.
Beep, into the coffee.
Well, that's good. And so, in fairness, my wife Martha had a similar thing. I inadvertently, I thought I was being helpful, and I did some laundry, and I washed some clothes and a pair of jeans, and her AirPods were in her pocket. And so I found them, and I'm like, well, these are toast. And I thought, you know what, that rice thing, I'm going to try that rice thing. And I put them in rice for about a week, took them out. And Hunter told me there was no way. He was like, there's no way. They're toast. They work just fine. So, for the win. Everybody else?
I am very grateful today. It was really fun. And the council we had before I submitted an offer for my client to help them with the monitor ended up being 11 offers total inside.
11 offers, and you got it. And leave
He helped me come up with some very crafty language in order to secure it.
not only killer contingencies, but crafty concoctions.
After that class, I was like, hey, so what do you think about this? I know we're competing with other offers that we do, but
That's awesome. Good work. Good work. Thanks, Lee. Anybody else? graduate.
And she has her next year, a fellowship for the next year, so she won't be living in our basement.
Leave the nest. That's good. Anybody else?
Stadium agreements.
Stadium agreements. We're gonna hear a little bit about that today. Excited. You know, I'm grateful for Whit Murray gave me this book, and it's called this Daily Stoic Journal, and you're supposed to write in it every day. I'm getting better. I'm continuously improving. There's some blank pages. But anyway, I'm grateful for him. That was it's a cool book. I'm actually gonna reference it today. There you go. Thanks for it.
What's it called?
It's called the Daily Stoic Journal. 366 days, as in 365 wasn't enough. Days of writing and reflection on the art of living.
What's a stoic?
What is a Stoic? Well, that is what the first few pages talk about. And I did read those, but we're going to get into it. Just give me a minute.
Stoics are cool.
Stoics are cool. So, all right, upcoming events, education calendar. Jumpstart continues tomorrow, and then Franklin is having a sales meeting at 9:30 tomorrow morning. There's a book open in LA, Germantown, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on, Thursday, right? Yeah, that's what it says right there, Thursday. We're going to do a Boomtown class here from 2 to 3 on Thursday, just to follow up on the last class that we had. And actually, we may need to revisit that because I just realized I'm going to be out of town. So we'll figure that out. And then Mark is having a 1 Mile Radius book talk here from 5 to 7 on Thursday. So come support him on that. Office is closing early. We're doing a little staff outing, so the office closes at 4 p.m. on Friday. Just a heads up here, all the offices. And then Mentee Monday on Monday at 11 a.m. So plan to come to that. And then we're gonna do the Village Awards. So save the date. It's going to be the second sales meeting of March, and we'll do that we'll do it here same time. But it'll be a little bit different than last year, so it'll be exciting. So anyway, look forward to that. All right, David, you want to introduce Ken? I'll introduce you. This is David Payne, everybody.
It is really a pleasure to introduce Kim Karish, who's the CEO of the National Adult Literacy Council. It is a nonprofit that I support, both the Village Fund and volunteer hours. I teach a guy named Ayub who came here from the Sudan. He's an attorney in Sudan. He is a line worker at the breakfast buffet at the Sheraton here. And in spite of the difficulties of his life, he is cheerful and interested in learning and determined to go back to school and become a social worker and help other people who are newly arrived here. These are the kind of people who, if we let them keep coming, really will make America great again. So Kim will tell you a whole lot more about it. Here she is.
Thank you, David. My moment of gratitude is for David. David, thank you so much for helping me to sell my home this year and buy a new one. So let's hear it for David on that. I also want to thank all of you at Village Real Estate as well, because you guys are giving back to our community in such a meaningful way. And I was looking at the mission statement that you guys had up just a second ago, and I was like, gosh, that's not that different than our mission statement. Our mission is to help people learn the reading, writing, and English speaking skills that they need for a better life. And that's what you guys are doing here too, right? You're creating better lives. And in that way, I think that we are very aligned. A lot of people are surprised to learn that 1 in 8 Nashville adults cannot read at a functional level. That means street signs, job applications, menus, things like that. In addition, as I'm sure that this room is fully aware, the population of Nashville has changed significantly in the past 20 years. We've gone from a 2% immigrant population to a 12% immigrant population. That means we have lots of people who are working under their license and could stand to make a better life here in the United States. I only have a few minutes, and so I was trying to think of the best way to convey what we do at NALC, and to me, there's nothing better than a story to help inspire you in your actions throughout the city every day. So I've been especially reflective over the course of the past month. I lost my last grandfather in January, and he was 94 years old, and he had an 8th grade education from the Appalachian Mountains, a single schoolroom. And in fact, 3 of my 4 grandparents did not have a high school diploma, and yet both of my parents have master's degrees, and I have a master's degree. And so there's a tipping point that my grandfather served for our family. And then I look at what we're doing at NALC, where we do match up individuals as volunteer tutors with a student who's trying to learn. This might be someone who was born and raised here and never learned reading and writing skills. It might be someone who's immigrated here and is learning English speaking skills. But I've been tutoring a woman. I tutored her for a year, and then we got her another person to practice with for a while, and I've just recently reignited with her. And she has a 6th grade education from another country. And she's got 3 kids, and I've met the kids, and they're awesome kids, and I talk to them about what they might want to do. And one talks about being an archaeologist, and the other wants to be a teacher. And the little guy wanted to be Batman for a while, but he's recently shifted strategies to consider being an astronaut. But when I talk to those kids, like, there's a really clear expectation. They're going to college, and the entire trajectory of that family has changed. And NALC, the National Adult Literacy Council, we get to stand at that tipping point. And it is an honor and a privilege, and I am deeply grateful that we get to do this work. And I'd be happy to take any questions or anything like that, but I just wanted to share that story.
How do people help?
Yeah, how do we help?
That's my favorite question. So here's the deal. I have 300 people on a waiting list right now. It's taking us a year to get to people. So this woman came in one day, and she had finally talked her husband into doing it. It was one of those conversations where you could tell, like, she'd been working on that for a while. And she's like, my husband, he's ready for English lessons. And we said, great, we're gonna put him on the list. It'll be about a year before we can match him up. And she just laughed. She was like, oh, yeah, no, he's not, that's not gonna work. And so what we need are more volunteers, especially in Antioch and Southeast Nashville. So if any of you are connected in those communities, with any churches or resources to help us connect with other people, it's a beautiful, enriching volunteer experience, and we could use your support in that way.
What does that look like, being a volunteer? How often?
We have 2 different volunteer programs. One is called Start Now, and it's super flexible. You can make an appointment and be out of town for 3 weeks and come back and make an appointment. You'd be working with a different student every time. And we do the lesson plan, you get there 10 minutes early, and then you work with the student for an hour. Lots of our English language speakers need practice with different other English speakers to work on accents and things like that. So it's a totally fun way to travel the world from Nashville. You get to meet people from all different kinds of places. The other thing that we do, that David's doing, is you volunteer once a week and you get matched up with a student and you stay with that student for a 6-month period. And the beauty of that is that you get to watch their progress over time, and some deep relationships are formed out of that.
Anybody else got any questions?
I've done the program, and I just want to reiterate that it's an amazing thing to be involved in. So my student was a dad of a son who, the dad was just trying to get higher up in his business. He couldn't. He hit a ceiling where he didn't have the reading skills to get to the next level of employment, to make more money for his kid and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, not a big, amazing, all right. It was a great purpose anyway. But he had like just a small issue he was trying to, you know, so it was fun to see him work through that.
And you bring up a good point. We work with people of lots of different levels and backgrounds. Sometimes we're working with someone with a 6th grade education. Sometimes we're working with someone who is a lawyer in a different country. Sometimes we're working with a Bridgestone employee working in the finance department I mean, when they changed offices and people were going to have to call in for their morning meetings, English is harder over the phone than it is in person. There's a lot of context you can't pick up on. And so we have people reaching out to us to say, I've got to improve my English now. So there's just a wide spectrum of people that could benefit from what you already know.
Thank you so much for being here. Yeah. So, just a reminder, you can designate from your closings either a percentage or a dollar amount. You designate where you want it to go, so this would be a great choice.
Can I say one more thing?
Sure.
I'm going to leave this book for you to throw into a break room or whatever. We give our students and our tutors an opportunity every year to write about their experiences. They get to write anything they want to do. It's a homework assignment for them, but we publish their stories, and this was our 35th anniversary edition. So if you're ever having a down day, you're not sure if America can be great again, take a look at this book, because there are things that we go through in Nashville on a day-to-day basis that might start to annoy us, and when you see it through a different lens and realize it could be the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen before, boy, does it make you feel so much more grateful. So I'm going to leave this one.
Awesome. Thank you. And we try to do this once a month. The third sales meeting of the month, have someone from the community say, David, thank you for having Kim come, and the Nashville Adult Literacy Council, having them come tell us that. So if you've got a nonprofit that you support and want to have them come up and share for 5 minutes or so, let Rachel know, and we'd love to have them. And so, but thanks again, David. And David will miss this is my section of the program, which is David's least favorite section of the program. Okay, he's going to stay. But it is his least favorite section, because David actually reads like 3 or 4 newspapers a day and knows more about current events than I do. So this is a review for him, but we'll, some of you like it, and actually ask for like, hey, tell us a little bit about your strategy for staying up to date on the news. Like, what do you read? How often do you read? And so I'm going to start off and give you kind of a high level what I do for that. And I would start by saying, I think it's helpful that my mindset is kind of generally laid back and positive when it comes to the news, because if you read a lot of news, it can, and you're not kind of naturally laid back, you can kind of get wound up. And I can even find myself getting wound up about things. And so, like, my wife, for instance, she watches the news too much. It's like not a helpful thing for her. You know, she just gets like upset. And so just know where you are, and if you can, kind of have a mindset of, hey, this has been going on a long time. We've had crazy politicians for a long time. We've had bad news. It's a tough world out there, and so I would encourage you to do that. But so what I do, I subscribe to 4 different news sources. Inman is kind of real estate related, so I get articles about that. New York Times, this is all online. I don't get anything paper-wise, like at the front door. The National Business Journal and Wall Street Journal. So it's I think it's about $40 a month is what I'm spending on news subscriptions. And I feel like it's given me a pretty good balance of, industry stuff, local stuff, and then national. New York Times comes at things from a little different angle than the Wall Street Journal, and so I like getting both of those perspectives. And then I get a couple of like email newsletters. Some of y'all may get some of these. The Skim is a daily email newsletter, focuses on short, simple, easy to read versions of the news, and is marketed to urban women aged 22 to 34. My wheelhouse. And then the Morning Brew is a daily newsletter as well, covering Wall Street to Silicon Valley, informative, witty, everything you need to start your day. So 2 of those just kind of gives you the headlines and a little digest of the headline, along with, if you didn't want to take a deeper dive into it, you can click through and do that. So I like both of those. And then Google News is kind of my on my phone app, and it curates and uses AI to kind of suggest stories it thinks you're going to like based on what you've read in the past. So that's kind of throughout the day, like instead of hitting Instagram or something like that, I might choose Google News instead. And then I'm a big podcast person. So here's some of my favorite podcasts just when I'm in the car or kind of doing random stuff around the house, chores. I'll pop in my AirPods and Planet Money is a really good one. If you're just kind of interested in the economy, but you don't know where to start, and it kind of gives you a straightforward 20 to 30 minute description of what's going on in the economy. How I Built This is a really fun show about innovators and entrepreneurs and the stories behind the companies they built. That's always fun. Wall Street Journal has a daily podcast. Revisionist History, y'all know Malcolm Gladwell? So good. If you hadn't listened to him, this is his journey through the overlooked and misunderstood. He's the author of Tipping Point and Outliers, Blink. Business Wars is it's like an episode series, and it'll take like Coke versus Pepsi. It'll go back from when they were founded and talk about their rivalry over the years, Chevy versus Ford, Facebook versus Snapchat. It's a really cool one. Tony Kornheiser show. He's like a Jewish curmudgeon from the DC area. It's kind of an adult talk show he does every day. So that's my news digest, kind of how I stay up on things. If you don't want to do any of that, just come to the sales meeting and I'll update you. So, politics time. Remember, we really only have one primary going on. The Republican side is pretty much decided, so we'll focus on the Democrat side, what's going on real quick. We accept all voters here, and so this is not an endorsement of either party or any candidate. All right, we're clear? So, Iowa. We talked about Iowa last week. This is how they finished. Pretty close between Pete Buttigieg and Bernie Sanders. New Hampshire was last Tuesday, and so again, Bernie Sanders and Mayor Pete were at the top. The big surprise was Amy Klobuchar finishing with almost 20%. So she went from a 5th place finish in Iowa to a 3rd place finish in New Hampshire. So taking the candidates like we did last week in reverse order from how they finished, just kind of where they stand. Last week we said the conventional wisdom was that Biden was going to do poorly in New Hampshire, and he did not disappoint on that. He did really poorly. We thought the worst he could do would be 4th place, and he came in 5th. And so he's really running on fumes, hoping South Carolina will come to the rescue in about 2 weeks. But he's got to get through Iowa, and he has no campaign money left. So he's still a slight favorite in South Carolina in a couple of weeks, but Uncle Joe is in trouble. Also in trouble, Elizabeth Warren. Last week we said she was on course to finish a distant 3rd. And if she came in 3rd, there would be calls for her to get out of the race and endorse Sanders, thereby uniting more liberal voters of the party behind a single candidate. But she actually came in 4th, so she did worse than expected, and she still has not gotten out of the race, and says, quote, her campaign is just getting started. We'll see. Amy Klobuchar was a big winner. She did almost 20% in New Hampshire, running against Bernie Sanders, who's right next door in Vermont, and Elizabeth Warren, who's right in nearby Massachusetts. She's surging. Expect this week and the next coming weeks for she's kind of been running under the radar and not taking much from any of the other candidates, so she'll have to weather some attacks and a bunch of stuff. You've already started seeing it come out, so it'll be interesting to see how her candidacy weathers that attention. Can she keep the momentum going? Second place was Mayor Pete. He did well, just finished about a little less than 2 percentage points behind Bernie Sanders, who, remember, Bernie won New Hampshire in 2016 over Hillary Clinton by over 22 points. So, so his momentum feels pretty strong. But then also number one candidate in New Hampshire, Bernie Sanders. Heading into Nevada, he's really expected to win. It's really a race for second and third place, is what most pundits are saying. He's going to win with probably 28 to 30% of the vote. So we're not talking about him getting a majority of 50%, but he's got by far the most supporters, by far the most momentum around his overall campaign, and he's raising more money as well, which helps. So there's an important debate, I believe, tomorrow night in Nevada. So just like in New Hampshire, Klobuchar had a really good debate and got some momentum going heading into that. Look out for tomorrow night, that could happen. So besides just like my or the pundit's opinion, I always go to like, what does Vegas think about the race? Because that's really like, I think, important. You can tell who is likely to win. So this is saying that Bernie Sanders, it kind of reads this way, I guess. So Bernie Sanders, if you bet, I gotta think through this. Do you have any good bettors here? I think this is, if you bet $100 on Bernie Sanders, you would win $135. If you bet $100 on Michael Bloomberg, you'd win $200. It's like 2-to-1 odds for Bloomberg. This is to win the Democratic nomination. So Biden is still in third place at 7.5 to 1. Mayor Pete's 8 to 1. Klobuchar's 18 to 1. Hillary Clinton is still the same as. Anyway, I just thought this was an interesting way to look at it. And waiting in the wings with. Just mentioned Bloomberg. Sanders has started focusing his attention on Bloomberg already. So it'll be interesting to see. Bloomberg said, the simple truth is that Mayor Bloomberg, with all his money, will not create the kind of excitement and energy we need to have the voter turnout we must have to defeat Donald Trump. Bloomberg shot back about some of his Bernie's campaign tactics. But Bloomberg's case is that he is the candidate that can beat Trump. That he's everything Trump is not. He's a builder of financial data and media company that employs over 20,000 people. He is a billionaire. Most estimates are he's worth about $60 billion. He's a problem solver with a steady temperament who was elected 3 times as the mayor of the nation's largest city. And he's one of the world's leading philanthropists. A pretty funny joke in Texas last week was a reporter asked Bloomberg if the country wanted a race between 2 New York billionaires for president, and he replied, "Who's the other one?" Trump would clearly, I think, rather face Sanders in a general election. He started going after Bloomberg on Twitter, of course, saying, he calls him Mini Mike. Bloomberg's actually 5'7", 5'8", not 5'4", but Mini Mike is a 5'4" mass of dead energy who does not want to be on the debate stage. He hates Crazy Bernie and will, with enough money, possibly stop him, and Bernie's people will go nuts. Bloomberg replied, this is like middle school, you know? We know many of the same people in New York, and behind your back they laugh at you and call you a carnival bark-eating clown. They know you inherited a fortune and squandered it with stupid deals and incompetence. I have the record and resources to defeat you, and I will. Anyway, enough politics, but that's kind of what's going on. Let's move to local news. So last week we talked about MLS Stadium and that we were at risk of losing our MLS team. We got the deal done. Cooper relented to pressure from his constituents and agreed to a deal. Remember parcel 8C, that 2.5 acre or so parcel right in the middle? That's going to stay with the team, but the team agreed that they were going to go through the planning process and make sure it incorporates what some of the things the city wants to see that incorporate. The mayor did get us about $54 million in extra costs shifted over to the developer side. So Mayor Cooper's done a good job looking after the taxpayer, and that's about all on the MLS team. They start playing when? Soon. 29th. So they'll play, I guess, the next couple of years in Titan Stadium, I think. Anyway, it's fun to have another pro sports team. And then also locally, y'all know where Neuhoff is in Germantown? So it is a large complex, long-awaited kind of an overhaul, and that just closed in the last couple of weeks for $32 million. An Atlanta developer called New City Development is prepared to undertake the development. They're really eager to. New City has a good reputation for preserving historical buildings, and so they're going to incorporate as much of the existing Neuhoff plant factory. It was an old meat packing slaughterhouse. So there's some cool buildings over there. Here's one rendering of proposed. They're using Smith Geese Studio as well as New York City-based S9 architect. And so anyway, it would be pretty cool, kind of right down there on the river in Germantown. Zach, talk rates.
Woo! Rates go up or down? What's the bet? Vegas odds.
Down.
Unfortunately, we lose. Rates went up a little bit. From 3.125 to 3.25. I said that lovingly. You don't really lose. You win. But 3.5, 30-year fixed is from 3.5 to 3.65. So everything went up just a hair, but that's still really good. And anyway, so 3.5, 3.75, 3.5, 3.5, 3.5, 3.65. So that's, between 3.5 and 3.75. I think you can expect that to stay for a little bit. Has anybody gone? So we've switched from CSS to Showing Time. They merged those companies. Has anybody messed around on ShowingTime.com? Handful of people. So there's some reports. There's a lot of reports that you can get there. If you go on their website and click on reports right here, you can see a bunch of reports. And there's a market stats piece. It's kind of like trend graphics. I'm not going to get into that, but there is one interesting piece, report called a target market analysis. It says this graphical report displays which price range is getting the most showings. It's a perfect report to share with your sellers when determining the starting price for a listing or making a price adjustment. So you can type in a zip code. Like I did 37212. And I just looked from 100,000 to $1 million in $50,000 increments, but you can break it out kind of however you want. And so in 37212, the price range that's getting the most showings is between 450 and 499.999. So 450 to 500. The second most showings is 550 to 600. So what do you think that means? Does that mean if you're 400 to 450? No showings, and this is from, you can do a date range, so this is from, I guess the last month, 30 days, the previous 30 days. So you look at that, that could mean that there's just no inventory there, right? So don't forget that. Do a little check on the MLS to see what the inventory is. But it shows it in a couple different ways. It shows that the total showings in this popular winners, there were 67 total showings, which is 23% of all the showings. The monthly average, which is about right because we're looking almost a month, is 64. Weekly average is 15. Showings per listing is 13. So you can see what the showing school listing is. Obviously, this is only stuff that's tracked by CSS or Showing Time.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask, is over $1 million where it says one. Isn't it usually like call the agent? I mean.
It could be, right.
So they really don't track that.
That's correct.
So,
So I would say at least, I think over half the market uses CSS Showing Time though. So, again, just like everything, don't drill down too narrow, but that's a helpful report that I thought was neat. All right, tip of the week. I was reading a book and I thought this was kind of a good reminder. Again, we're getting into the spring, things can get a little stressful, and there was a story about staying in your 3-foot world. It was about a guy who went to Red Rock Canyon near Las Vegas to learn how to go rock climbing. And so he's up on this cliff. That's not him, but I thought that was a cool photo. Hopefully there's something like right under there, because there are no ropes on that. Did you do that with no ropes?
No, I did not. I did do it Red Rock Canyon.
Yeah. So you went to Red Rock? Oh, cool. So this is the guy, and he says, "Hey man," the trainer said in a lazy, raspy voice, "just stay in your 3-foot world." I was a couple hundred feet up in the rock face, and I could barely think, let alone decipher his cryptic advice. What the hell are you talking about, bro? Only focus on your 3-foot world, he said. Focus on what you can affect. You keep looking around. None of that's going to help you right now, can it? I shook my head and said no. Right now, you're calculating how far you're going to fall. You're looking down at Jeff, but he's not going to come up and help. You're looking out at that Vegas strip. What are you going to do? Gamble your way out of this? Or gamble your way to the top? Don't look at me. I'm not going to help you either. This is up to you. You're climbing this rock. Stay in your 3-foot world. And it was, and I guess, I don't know if that's like a climbing expression or not. I've done a lot of climbing as a kid, but I'd never heard that before. But it was, the idea was that there's a lot of stuff coming at us, right? But there's ultimately only certain things that we can control. And so when you're climbing, if you look up, you look down, you might have a panic. But ultimately, you got to find out where's the next handhold, where's the next foothold. I just got to get to the next step, right? So I also found this little graphic that I thought was kind of neat. So you got things that you can control, and then things that matter. And then where those two cross over, that's a good way to define what you can focus on. So there's that. Any thoughts on that? All right. 40X groups update. So I've had a few, so we've got 9 groups going right now. And they're starting out. I've had several people say, "Hey, I heard this thing is going kind of neat. I think I missed the boat on it. Can I get in?" Yes, you can get in. We're going to start up another one here, depending on when we get, I guess, enough people, another 1 or 2. So if you're interested in doing that, you've heard about it, let me know. I've had some people say, "Can I get into a group even though it's already started?" We're not going to do that just because they've already got a rhythm going. But we're going to start another one. So a couple of people talk to me, but just let me know and we'll get you in. All right, coming soon. Is any broker opens that are happening this week? I know there's an Elliott one on Thursday. Any city living people here want to talk about that? All right. Well, hey, Caroline.
It's 11 to 1. We're gonna have lunch and we're gonna get tours of the schoolhouse.
11 to 1, and it's a tour of the schoolhouse? Of the school, of the old schoolhouse. Cool. And so they're going to be flats in that? Are those going to be condo flats? Starting at 3s and go to 1.8. Very cool. So that's Thursday, and you're bringing lunch?
Yep.
All right.
I don't know what it is, but I think it'll be good.
Caroline promises it'll be good. Cool. Anybody else? Broker opens?
Chandler has one tomorrow from 11 to 1 in West Haven.
11 to 1 in West Haven.
It's on the coming soon sheet.
All right. Which I'm going to pull up right now. David, how do you want to help? I'm looking at David's name on the coming soon sheet.
David.
Here.
So, this house that I have coming soon is a very good friend of mine. He's a builder. His wife gets pissed at me about every 3 years because I sell her dream home, and I'm hoping to do it again with y'all's help. Again, this is a personal home, and they've put the best of the best construction materials and practices into it. It is almost 4,600 square feet with a dado in the back, a 2.5 car garage, And the cool thing about the 900 block of Lawrence is these lots are 30 feet deeper than your typical 150s. It's 180 feet. It's got a really good alley. That one's going to be 1679, and I think they are in the drywall stage, so there can be some customization in there, but it is going to be awesome. Another really good one coming up. This is a remodel as well. 809 Forest Hills Drive. It's got 2 acres. They completely rebuilt this house. Literally, it took all the walls down and reconstructed it. It's going to have clean and modern styling. Really cool living areas. Most of the house is main level, with the exception of this office suite over where the garage used to be. It's a 4-car garage, 2 acres, 5 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, 4,200 feet. And again, we're about to put cabinets in, but paint, floor finish, all of that is something that can be customized. It's going to be at 1.5. We'll be hitting the market in 2 to 3 weeks, and that's I know a lot of people in here follow the couple that flips on Instagram. That's who's doing that house, and she has a really keen design eye and likes really clean, modern stuff. So it'll be pretty cool.
Cool. A lot.
Yeah.
That's true.
201 Carter Lane, coming soon again. We've been under contract for the last 3 months, and the buyer's defaulted tonight. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. It's a really cool house. Robert Anderson designed double height living room, wall-to-wall floor to ceiling glass, like 20 feet of it, all across the whole back of the house. It's got a pool. It's fantastic. You've got a buyer who likes to entertain, incredible indoor-outdoor flow. 6,400 square feet, 3 bedrooms. It's got 7 baths and campus-side. There is also a pool room, den, it could be a guest suite, could be teen suite, it's completely together, kind of a kitchenette and a full bath, also access to the pool, or private access. You could be, a short-term rental if you want to do that at this price. Huge master suite with his and her baths, acres of marble, exercise room, and an elevator for those who don't like master on the second floor. 1.2 to 1.25, something like that. Friday, probably.
Awesome. Kendi or Sue?
We have a coming soon in 1212. This is the highest corner you can go to looking downtown without being in a penthouse. So this unit was on our
you can go.
without being in a penthouse.
So it's right one below the
2202. Yeah. The main downtown building corner. 1,563 square feet, 2 bedroom, 2.5 bath. It does have a lease permit. It does have a current tenant. He bought the penthouse above it. So he's moving up, and that unit is available with a lease permit currently. They lease it at $7,500 a month for the last year, and the owner is ready to buy a ranch. So we need to sell. So it's available as soon as March 1st.
Nice work. David, you talked about that one already?
David did not talk about
Oh, no, I didn't.
So many.
So, this is 2 triplexes and a quadplex that are being sold as a package. It's 16 total bedrooms. There's room for improvement there as far as if you want to go in and renovate further and get on to raise the rents and increase the value. And these are scattered kind of throughout northern Nashville in the 2100 to 3000 block. And these are 1.269, and seller is really motivated on this, so looking to negotiate there. So just kind of starting point, and then he has one more down there. Yeah, one more. So 1601 or 1601 DB Todd. This is truly an urban compound. It's completely fenced in, 5,300 feet. It has a dadu, 7 bedrooms, 3 baths, for 500. So if you're, and it has really strong commercial potential there. If you have someone that's looking for a rezone, they're gonna need to see plans for that, and you'd have to go through the SP process. But that one is at 500 and it's coming on in 2 weeks.
Just realized how long this list is.
Awesome.
Man, y'all are on fire. It's awesome. All right, so remember Thomas, you got.
I think it's Scott next.
There it is.
Hey, this is a little house in Old Hickory Village, which looks like a place full of houses that little kids would draw with crayons. Super cool area, very moderately priced neighborhood, but continues to increase in value right by the lake. 240,000 or less. There's all the details right there. It's a super great place. Should be open soon. 1934.
All right, Johnny.
Right here. So I don't really know much about these, so I'm just reading the screen because she had to run to an appointment. But our first one is 2114 12th Avenue South, cottage near 12th Avenue or near Lawrence. My understanding it's a brick house that was a rental, but great location and great possibilities within the week. And then the next one is 1405 Dallas next week. My understanding, again, it's a nice renovated Victorian home. They moved to Green Hills and did a nice dadu with it's got 600 square foot above it, 1.35. And then going down is 111 Hetty, brand white design home, built in 2015. Next week, 1.4. Sorry, I don't know more, but let me know if you need more info.
We talked about Chandler's West Haven, 1.2 million. She's got a broker open, right? Thursday. Will Reynolds, where you at?
This one's a little bit further out. So Fairdale is in Avondale Park, or right? Yeah, Avondale Park, which is out off of McCrory Lane, so kind of closer to Pegram. But this house abuts the back of the subdivision, so it just kind of goes up to the woods, which is nice, so it doesn't have that sort of subdivision feel to it. The basement does have a stubbed out full bathroom. The house is on a slab, so that makes it easier to throw in kind of an extra living space down there. And then additionally, Ann Deutsch and I are listing a restaurant/living space in Suwanee called Octopi, which is it has 2/3 of it has a living space, so it's which is kind of like a flat, and then the other third is an awesome restaurant with like a great wood-fired pizza oven. And it has a liquor license as well, so you know that helps out with running your business up there.
Good work.
Awesome. You miss anybody? Anybody got
So just refresh this in case anybody has something. What a list. Good work, y'all. Anybody else? All right. Here we go. Whoa. All right, takeaways. Oh, Scott, wait, Scott's got some.
Regarding awards ceremony, so that is March 14th, I believe, for the Greater Nashville, not the one that Zach just talked about for the Village Awards. If anybody has interest in going, we are collecting, organizing this as a village tables. Brent Cooper and Andrew Woodard are heading that up, so if you have interest in going, please contact one of the two of them. We'll put your name on the list. Tickets are $85. You still get those at any point. If you are an award winner, of course, that is comp with your application fee. So, let us know. Hope to see you all there.
Thank you. Good work. Any other announcements? What were your takeaways?
Hunter's podcast.
Hunter's podcast. The Hunter's an urban millennial woman. How much time do you spend reading the news every day?
I better do like 30 minutes a day, and then for like Monday afternoons, I'll kind of, like as I read, I'll like forward stuff to Google Keep Note, and then I'll have like a bunch of ideas for Tuesday, Monday afternoon that I can put together. That's my routine. But probably about 30 minutes a day.
All right, everybody else?
3-foot space.
Stay in your 3-foot world. Control what you can control. Don't try to control what you can't control. And then focus on the stuff that you can control that's important. So I'll leave you with this. Ooh, I'm dropping pens. Oh, classy today. Let's see. So basically, Hunter asked, "What is a Stoic?" It's a good question. I'm not exactly sure how to answer that, but basically, what this book was about was he said Stoicism was designed by the Greeks and perfected by the Romans for the living and the doing of daily life for the man and woman trying to make it through a confusing world. As such, it was much more than a set of teachings or long ago written sentences. Instead, it was a set of timeless, practical exercises, systems for reducing fear, thoughts for battling destructive thoughts, reminders of things that we take for granted, tools for resisting temptation, pillars of strength for tough moments. And then it said, when you pursue the Stoic discipline mentioned in this journal, each morning you will ask, as the great modern Stoic Pierre Hadot put it, what principles will guide you? What principles would guide and inspire my actions? So, the one thing that I wanted to just read you was, that is a good way to leave it, just that concept of, just being a little bit better every day. So the Stoics saw their lives as a work in progress. They didn't believe that they were born perfect, but believed that with work and dedication they could get a little bit better every day. There is real delight in this progress, as Epictetus quoted by way of Socrates. Marcus Aurelius avidly pursued his own education and improvement, eagerly looking for advice from books, mentors, and historical examples. Follow that example this week and see how you get a little better each day as each day passes. We must, this is sort of like 40X that reminded me too. Just being able to do a little self-evaluation and see if we actually did what we did looking back in time. We must keep constant watch over ourselves. As Seneca phrased it, put each day up for review. Looking back at our day helps us to better understand where we may have fallen short and gives us tangible feedback on how to improve and grow. Only what you measure and record can be monitored. Only what you put up for reflection can be learned from. So just wanted to leave you with that as a way to think about your week and hope it's a successful one. Thanks for coming.